All right, you're live.
Okay, we are back, you guys. It is, what is this, Wednesday night? We are at Gwinnett Woodworking Association. The nice people here invited us out to do a little demo. So we've got a group of people here and you guys are watching at home or wherever you're at. So I'm going to go over just kind of some basics, inset letters, outset letters, some detail carving, talking about router bits. So if you guys have questions, Vicky is, I think, monitoring the questions on there. I think some of the people here may have questions. So again, like I just told these guys, this really is more about you. I want to answer as many questions as we can. I'm just going to kind of lead the thing on doing making some sawdust here, doing some carving. But we want to answer questions and do whatever we can to do that.
All right, guys, here's the disclaimer. We forgot the mic and we forgot the tripod. So if we're going to have Eric yell, and you're going to see a lot of bobbing on the camera because I am holding it on a stool that's got a board on it.
Yeah, normally we have the iPad on a tripod, but tonight we have it sitting on a stool, I think. So Vicky is going to do her professional job like normal, and you guys are going to be patient, hopefully. Otherwise, I'm going to hear about it later. So please. Anyway, so let's, are we ready? You want to jump right into it?
Justin says he's on his way to Atlanta. See you there. Okay, we're going to scan the room, give you an idea of some, or if y'all don't want to be seen, hide your faces. Okay, wait, check this out. Here they are. Oh my gosh, she's incognito.
What a
Okay,
group.
we're just doing, ooh. Oh wait, who's that?
That's Rob.
There he is.
There's
There's Rob back there.
That's our host.
That's the host. Then look, Linda and Chuck.
And corduroy.
All right, now back to, and Corduroy's not here, but we'll see him Sunday.
See him on Sunday.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Go
All right.
to it, bub.
So let's, what I've done to begin with here to try and save a little time, I've laid out a few letters. This is a piece of that cedar fencing. When I use this cedar fencing, it comes rough like this, both sides. All I do is I just basically just do a really light sand on the front. I used a belt sander with a 60, I think. Just enough to make it smooth enough to where my router base will slide smooth on there. So these are, I'm going to cut these inset. These I'm going to cut outset. Right now I've got the 60-degree V-groove bit in. And this is what I generally use for inset letters. These inset letters, by the way, are 1-inch Clarendon, and the outset are 2-inch Western. So, I guess this is a little bit different than normally I like, and I get this question a lot too. Normally when I'm carving, I like my bench top about mid-chest, something like that. So this is a little bit low, but it's not like I'm going to be carving for hours and hours. So, pardon the glare while I take my hat off there. Let's put the cheaters on. Let's see how we're going to look for light here. Hopefully Vic will be able to get down in there. I think I've got this set at about 3/16. That might be a little bit deep. Yeah, that is deep. I'm going to set this about 1/8 of an inch, something like that. Let's see if we can make this work. I gotta back this thing way up. You good, babe?
Turn just to bring your left hand down just a little bit. There you go.
Oh, it's a little deep. Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit. Those these 1-inch inset letters. The thing about this cedar that the thing that I like about it is it's really soft, and actually this board is pretty dry, so it carved pretty well. But on the grain, if you, and I don't know if this is going to show up, but right down in there, every time it hits a grain, want it lower?
Down.
Down. Okay. I can't see which way the camera's pointing. Every time it hits one of these grains, what happens is, because it's so soft in between the grain, then when it hits the grain, because this is kind of a vertical grain board, that's when it wants to go really squirrely on you. So what I mean by vertical grain is the grain is running more up and down vertical rather than horizontal. And so it tends to be kind of hard, soft, although this wasn't really bad. Fortunately, these are brand new bits, so they're really sharp, so I didn't have too much issue. Sorry about the sawdust. This is the most sawdust you guys probably have ever seen in here. Yeah. Huh? Sit down. I feel so bad because everything else is so clean, and now I've made a mess.
Clean 2 hours ago.
So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to switch these bits. So the 60-degree V groove is what I used here, and that's normally what I use for. I'm going to be nice and unplug the router while I change the bit, which I will say most of the time I don't, but anyway. So now I'm going to put in the profile bit. So I use a 60-degree most of the time for inset letters. Well, yes?
You trust us to pass that around?
Yeah, absolutely.
You can frisk us already.
Yeah, absolutely.
What speed do you run the router?
Almost always full speed. Who asked, Joe? Yeah, almost always full speed. The only time I don't run full speed, which I think on this is about 30, is that what this, 27. Yeah, this runs max of 27. I almost always run it on full speed, unless I'm cutting something other than wood, plastics or something like that, then I'll slow it down. Or if I'm using a big router and I'm using a big bit, once in a while we'll like use our router sled to flatten big slabs, then I'll slow the cutter speed down. But other than that, I run at full speed.
Is that the size router you usually use?
This is my favorite router. This is the router that I use mostly for this. When I do that flattening, I use the 618, the DeWalt 618, which is the big 2.5 horse, I think. So I've got it set a little shy of a 1/4 inch right now. So this is our profile bit. This is the one that my dad designed 20, 30 years ago, something like that. Yes, sir.
I notice you have a 4-flute bit. Is there a particular reason why you run a 4-flute bit?
4-flute bit?
Yeah. That bit you say you just pass this around, that's a 4-flute bit. Is it 2?
I only count 2.
No, maybe I'm blind enough I can't see how it. I didn't have my glasses on. I had them on backwards. Sorry about that.
So does it look like 2 now?
Yeah, it does.
All right, we're good.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, I saw you hand it to him, like, that doesn't look like 4.
I want to know what he's been drinking.
Good question. Good question, I think. All right, so let's cut some outset letters. So with outset letters, I use 2 different bits. I'm going to start with a profile bit. Again, I'm going to back that off, not quite a 1/4 inch, because there's a really tight area in this U. The bit won't fit in that U, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to split it and I'll just shorten those pieces up a little bit. You'll see when I get there. Let's see if I can make this happen here. Oh, I need my cheers on. Otherwise I'm going to be in real trouble. Oh, yeah, got to plug it back in. Good point. Thank you.
He's done that many times.
That's a normal thing for me. We're winging it. Here we go. All right. Sorry, babe, that messed you up? No, that's not deep enough. Can you see this all right, babe?
Yeah, just turning your,
You want me to turn the base
turn
around?
your left hand back.
Hang on just a second. So let me explain what I'm gonna do here. This base will go on, or this housing will go on two different ways. You can rotate it. This will give you guys a little bit more vision because of this cut. In case you guys don't know, when you buy this, this router, this is closed in. This is opened up. I've modified this. We cut a 2-inch hole and then used a hacksaw to modify that. We do that for a couple different reasons. First reason is to allow the sawdust to go that way rather than in my face. Second reason is it lets in a little bit more light. And the third reason is the camera can see better.
Which is
How did you
more
cut
important.
A drill press with a metal saw, a hole saw. But you can do it, we actually have videos where you can just do it with a hacksaw too. Make 3 cuts, 1, 2, 3. Whether that's round or,
That curved surface.
yeah, this was cut with a hole saw, a 2-inch hole saw on the drill press. Dad's got a jig set up for it. And then once that's out, then this is gone, of course. You take this off and then use a hacksaw to cut that off. That's all there is to it. And then just kind of smooth it up.
Just did a video on that recently.
Yeah, Dad just did a video on it not too long ago. You obviously don't watch our videos. That hurts me deeply. But I'm gonna let it go.
I told him about it.
So he just ignored you, you know? Well, that's fine.
All right, here we go.
Linda, try one of those chairs over there, please. Eric,
What? Oh, well, that's a good idea. All right, change of plans. We're gonna change chairs.
You want to roll it? That way.
Wow, good idea, Lynn. See?
Oh, maybe I can.
Oh, I like that much better. Oh, that's great.
Not too low.
No, it's perfect.
yes, Bull, this is live.
is that.
I want to tell you some of the folks that are on here.
Yeah,
Gotta go back up, hold on. We got Mike from Boston, Rudy Molina, Dan Yotis, Keith Davenport, Jerry Trent, oh, Todd. Yes, Todd, we talked to Rachel. We will take care of all that when we get back.
Todd Powell.
Shirley Hall, the Slime Factory? Don't know
Okay.
who that is. Roland Knowlton. Sam Dietrich.
Hey, Sam.
Okay,
Okay, so that's kind of gives you an idea with a profile bit. I go around the letter. Now, depending on if I was, let's say for instance, I was doing letters 1 inch inset or 1 inch, but I was doing them outset. What I would do is I would do a double cut. I would go shallow enough that would allow me room to get around that letter. Then I would set it deeper and make a double cut around there. A couple different reasons for that is that, actually, you know what? Let's do it. Let me show you why. I can do it faster than I can explain it, I think. So I'm just gonna spray this real quick. All right, so it's so now I've got it set. I think right now I'm, where am I? About 1/4 of an inch. I'm a little less than 1/4 of an inch, but I'm going to set it probably more like 1/8 of an inch. Yeah, about 1/8. And I will go around it once, and then I'll go around it again. God, I'm glad you thought of this chair, man.
Vicky did, and I can't take that.
Vicky thought of it? Well, I'm not surprised.
Eric, hold that back, there we go.
So, okay, so you guys can see, let me turn it on. You guys can see that I've got a good line around there, but now if I go back with my 90 degree, which I will in a minute, and cut a background around here, if I leave that the way it is, I've got to get so close with my 90 degree that chances are I might nick that letter. So what I'll do is I'll just reset my router at about 1/4 of an inch, something like that, and I'll take another line around it. So now you can see I kind of left myself what I call a buffer zone all the way around, so that when I'm using my cleanup or my 90 degree bit, I don't have to get near as close to it. Questions?
What about the, in between the little points? on the
Inside
end?
the
Yeah.
inside the end. There it goes.
Well,
No, is that what you mean?
I think he's talking about down where you didn't carve that deep, where the V, in the
Oh,
V, that
in
V.
here?
Yeah.
Oh, in there. Well, see, here's the thing. Because even though I didn't go back inside there deeper, that's still way below the surface of the letter. So once I spray that, because most of the stuff I spray black and then I sand it off, that's still way deep enough so that when I spray it and sand it off, it won't come up as a white spot.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll just look like texture like the rest of it. So it really doesn't matter. Yes, sir.
When you go back with your V-bit, have you given thought to going in there to that, like the upper part of your end and swooping it up?
And I will. I can do that. Oh, well, let me make sure I understand what you're saying. So you mean to take this out to make that as a point?
Right.
I can do that, and I have done that in the past. Most of the time I don't, because it still looks fine the way it is. However, if I really want to do that, you can do that. It just takes extra time. Going back to how Dad and I really started this whole thing, we were carving signs on site out at flea markets and horse shows and all of that, where that might look a little bit better. It takes extra time. So generally speaking, I don't do that, but I can't. In fact, I can do it right now, and I'll do one of them, and then we'll see what it looks like, the difference between the two.
It's also a chance to screw it up, and then you have screwed up the whole thing.
Well, yeah, and it gets a little bit tricky because you have to lift the router.
Yeah.
You'll see me, I have to literally lift the edge of the router base, and it can get kind of tricky.
Before you do that, say hi to Tabitha.
Hey, Tabitha, where's Bull?
He's here. I just didn't want you to say hi to him.
A lot of this is testing. So see what I mean?
Hi, Natalie.
It's pointed in there, but does it really make that big a difference of the way the letter looks? So, he wants to zoom in on that. So you can see the difference between the two. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Oh, good. So, yeah, generally speaking, I don't do that. Now, when I'm carving bigger letters, that really isn't near as apparent, because you can get in further in there because you've got more space. So generally speaking, I don't do that, just from a time standpoint. Okay, so let's change the bit.
Question,
Yes,
would you ever, to do that, go to a smaller bit?
you could. You could. As a matter of fact, I'm going to carve some detailed stuff, and I've got a carving liner, so you absolutely could. I wouldn't normally carve this whole letter with a carving liner, because I only use a carving liner when I'm absolutely forced into it. And in this particular instance, this is a 1-inch letter. I can get by with using the profile bit the whole time. And if I use my carving liner, as good as the carving liner cuts, it's only one fluted. Yeah, but absolutely you could use a carving liner, which I'm going to use a carving liner when I get into that little tiny detail on that little duck hunter thing. So yeah, you absolutely could.
You're welcome, Rudy.
Unplug it. I
I'm
did.
using Miss Vicky's
Yeah,
idea
I did.
of resin.
See?
See?
Can you send a carving liner around so we can see what that bit looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I gotta use, well, yeah, I can do the
No,
carving.
You mean
or
carving
this-
in your
you mean this
resin
bit?
bowl?
The one you're talking about is a carving liner.
Yeah, the carving liner. Yeah, I won't be using that for a few minutes, so. And then this is the profile bit. You can toss that one around. I won't, yeah, I'm done with that
Hi,
one.
Tim. Hi, Tom. I'm just saying.
Hi, Tom.
He said hi to me, not you.
Oh, okay.
Are those,
Forget you, Tom.
are those carbide bits or? Are they-
Yeah, all solid carbide. Yes, sir.
They're all Amana bits.
And you sell these, right?
We do on our website, yes.
Yeah, we have them on the website.
When you sharpen it, does that base, that plastic base, did that come with the?
This actually is a base that my dad designed. This is a base plate that's kind of, there are other base plates out there, but this is a base plate that we've been making and selling for years, but it's my dad's design. We actually sell this on our website. So
We make them and sell
it
them.
just, it allows you to have your hands down and have better control rather than just holding on to the palm router itself.
Hi, Jason. Jason Harrison from the UK.
What is your website?
Makeawoodsign.com.
Put it in?
Did somebody, oh,
What thing?
Can you remember that?
Yeah,
yeah,
mine like a steel trap, nothing in or out.
all right, let's do some, now let's make some real sawdust.
Actually, I get mine out.
Plug it in.
Get more, get more. All right,
I'm set at about 1/4 of an inch.
Okay, I want you guys to see why Eric is sometimes turning the router around the other way. So check this out.
I have no idea what you're doing.
He's on a big screen.
Oh,
He's being filmed over here.
so you can see that as much
Yeah.
as big a cut as that thing is making there, the reason I made that, and if you look close, you can see that second line that I cut around there, just to give me a little bit of extra room, so I'm not so likely to nick that end. Now, if I were to go in and accidentally nick one of those, which I do quite often, it wouldn't be that big a deal because there's still enough meat there that I could just trim it down. As a matter of fact, somebody asked me a question about that the other day. What do you do if you nick a letter? How do you fix it?
I want one of those. Look at that. Look how clear that picture is.
So let's just.
Ann Davies is from Adelaide, South Australia.
Wow. Let's nick one of these letters somewhere and see if I can fix it. So, you look at the inside of that O, I kind of nicked that on purpose. That's not my normal thing. But I think somebody sent me an email the other day. In fact, I think it was Tessa sent me an email the other day. How do you fix a letter like that if you nick it? Well, all I do really, I unplug the router before I change the bit. All right, is my profile bit around somewhere? Oh, there it is. Got it. So you just kind of thin it out. Yeah. That is exactly right.
This thing looks so blurry compared to that one. I said, this looks so blurry compared to that one up there.
All right.
Tessa said, yes, it was her.
Oh, Tessa's on?
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine how that looks in the newer TV. That one's 10 years old.
That just,
All right, let's see. Man, I took a big chunk out of that thing, didn't I? I didn't think I took
What?
that big a
Usually
chunk.
how that works.
Now I got my glasses on, I can see what I did. Uh-oh. So, that's how you fix it. You just kind of take it down a little bit at a time till it's gone. So, there you go, Tessa, that one was for you.
Okay, I have to answer this question. She's asked a couple of times. It is from Pam Berry.
Yeah, Pam.
She said, do you have t-shirts and sweatshirts on your website? T-shirts, yes, we do, Pam. It's under merchandise. If you go to the website, because we're making changes, it's kind of crazy right now. Click under layout templates. You'll see a drop box. Go all the way down to merchandise. They're in there. But we don't have the sweatshirt. We don't have the sweatshirts. Sorry.
Sorry.
Just got sawdust in your eye. Serves you right.
Sir, you're right, it does. Okay, so let's do something with the, I could carve that one, but that one pretty much is all profile. I really want to use that carving liner and show you guys how that works. So this is just a kind of a duck hunter little layout template that we've got.
One of my creations.
Ooh.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm gonna have to get creative here because we've got a bit of a. Wait a minute. What's that?
We get some paint on your fingers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where's your pencil?
Yeah, but we need got any little spring clamp things?
Oh, yeah.
Like a little spring clamp that you don't mind getting black?
Oh, no.
Those little cheap Harbor Freight ones. You know what? Maybe I can, here, we'll improvise. What do we do with that masking tape? We'll improvise.
You want regular two-sided tape?
Yeah, you could use two-sided tape. But I think what I'll do, I'm not really concerned about that right there.
How about a pen nailer?
A what?
I make them, but I get the artwork from
So what I'm
Google
gonna
mostly.
do, guys, because this has got a little bit of a cup here, I'm kind of improvising. I wanna get a really good line when I spray this thing. So I've got this tacked down. Normally I would use a little clamp, but we don't have one that's, so I'm gonna,
We got plenty of clamps, all we gotta do is grab one.
yeah, no, I don't wanna blacken one of your clamps.
They're black already.
I'm gonna do that. You're already black?
Now, how are you gonna attach it?
How am I gonna, oh, I don't need to attach it.
Oh, you just wanna hold the other
All I
end up?
need to do is hold it down, and I know I'm off camera here, but I don't wanna spray the.
Wait. Well, now your root beer's in the way.
Well, I don't wanna spray it black. I've got this figured out already, I think.
You can spray it back, it's not gonna hurt it.
It's mostly black anyway.
Yeah, but that nice orange, I don't wanna. All right, so that's the way we kinda, that was an ad lib thing.
Wait a minute, we have a question here.
Okay.
I want one of those. This thing is now
one
annoying
of
me
these?
because I want one of those.
All right.
Scott
ahead.
Shep. Scott, don't use spray paint. Use spray primer or matte.
Ooh.
It says
Okay,
he's getting bleeding.
getting bleeding? Okay, so if you're getting bleeding, either you're using paint or you're overspraying. So you can use paint as long as it's like a paint primer, but it's a matte finish. Don't use satin, don't use semi-gloss, don't use gloss. Use a matte finish, And don't overspray. That's probably why you're getting bleeding. 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100 actually, that's what is going on there. All
Why
right.
do you scrub it before you start off? After you spray it, I noticed you scrub it.
Yeah, because any of that residue, that black residue, number one, I just sprayed it, so it might be a little bit wet yet. So any residue on there, I don't want my router base to kind of catch on that. That's the biggest reason. All right, we got to put the carving liner in. Did I unplug? I did. How are we doing on time, babe? You okay?
Oh, you're gonna go over.
Surprise, surprise. All right, so this carving liner, again, I only use this when I'm absolutely forced into it.
Scott
So-
says it is paint he's using.
Huh?
Scott says it is paint he's using.
Paint. Shocker.
He's, what, don't be a jerk.
Yeah, paint will do it every time. Especially if you're on a light colored board like pine or Douglas fir or something like that. Paint will do it every time. Even if you don't overspray. All right, so again,
Okay.
I'm going to keep this in front of me so I know where all those little lines are. And I'm only going to carve what I absolutely have to carve with a carving liner, and then the rest of it I'll put the profile bit in, and I'll do the rest of it with the profile bit.
Okay, are you gonna do the whole thing?
No, I'm only going to do a little bit here because I know we're running late. We're running behind. All right, so.
Okay, you guys on that I'm filming on our YouTube live, tell Eric
Plug in.
I want one of those other cameras. Email him, Eric at makeawoodsign.com.
I'm sorry, I got the router going. I can't hear you, babe.
Eric at makeawoodsign.com. Vicky wants that camera.
Man, I almost got away with it. All right.
I think you're buying a camera.
So,
I'm gonna buy it and then tell him. Eric, can you turn your hand a little bit?
I'm sorry.
That's all right. Don't overturn because then you're blocking the other camera. I know. You're gonna have. There you go.
Is that good? Is that all right?
That's fine. There you go. There we go.
So I think that kind of gives you an idea of how tight you can get with that little carving line. That little bit is just, man, it is really amazing. Let me see how deep I am on that. I'm actually a little over 1/8 of an inch. And that's plenty deep enough so that, and remember guys, when you're carving, if you're gonna spray them black and sand them off, or spray them whatever color and sand them off the way I do most of my stuff, you're gonna lose a little bit of depth. Sit. Yes, yes, ma'am. You're gonna lose a little bit of depth. So you always want to cut, when you're cutting, your line is always gonna be a little bit wider than after you sand, because you're going to take a little bit of material off of there, and everything is a V groove, so that means that you're going to lose a little bit of width, just microscopically, depending on what bit you're using. You're going to lose a little bit of width when you're sanding, after you spray it and sand it off. Yes, sir.
That bit is pretty thin. How long will it last?
I haven't had one wear out yet. Now, I do have to touch them up once in a while because they're carbide, but I sharpen bits. So depending on what I'm cutting, I can get maybe, 2 or 3 dozen things like this. Like now, all of the carving that I'm going to do with the carving liner on that particular template, wherever it is, yeah, I'll do the rest of it now. The rest of that I can do with a profile bit because it'll fit in there. So again, my rule is any place I can use a profile bit, I would rather use that because it's 2 fluted, it'll last longer, it'll stay sharper longer. The carving liner is only 1 flute. So to answer your question directly, it will probably last hundreds of signs if you don't drop it and break that tip off. Or if you don't try and go too deep. I would never go deeper really than 1/8 of an inch with that bit. The manufacturer says you shouldn't go more than 3/32, but I've gone 1/8 with it because most of what I'm cutting is soft. If I was cutting, Paduke or something like that, oak or something, I probably wouldn't go that deep all in one shot. If I needed to, I'd make it in 2 or 3 passes just so I didn't put extra stress on the tip of that bit because I don't want it breaking off.
Somebody asked about your sanding sealer. What's it called? The sanding sealer that you use?
The sanding sealer I use is Minwax water-based sanding sealer.
And you get it where?
I buy it at Lowe's in a quart or a gallon. And then I brushed it on, but I use a critter sprayer and I spray it on most of the time when I've got multiple boards to do. And I put that on, I don't put that on cedar, I put that only really on pine. I use primarily cedar, pine, redwood, and then I use some other types of woods too, but generally they're live edge. White poplar, I use white poplar, but I don't find I need sanding sealer for that.
Okay, Bull says, Vicky, was it a long drive or did you fly? No, I left my broom at home, Bull.
Yes, sir.
No, we did fly.
You could sharpen your own bits, what are you sharpening carbide bits with?
A diamond wheel. We got a bench grinder with a diamond wheel.
Do you just do the inside of the flute, or do you change the profile?
I change, we do the outside of the flute because there's no way to get in
Well,
there.
that's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, no, there's no way. With, if you've got bits like, I don't know, if you're doing bits like this, like a chamfer bit or a Roman OG or something like that, and we're going to do a video really soon on using a card sharpener, the diamond card sharpener, and with that you can do the inside if you've got a bit like this. If you got bits like this, there's no way to get inside there.
Thank you for reaching.
Yeah, there's no way. You'd have to do the outside of the bit, and that's what we do with our diamond wheel on our bench grinder. So it does, every time you sharpen the bit, obviously it does reduce the overall size of the bit. We try to take off as least as possible. And of course, with a double fluted bit, you're never going to get both sides exactly right when you're doing it by hand, because Dad taught me how to do it when I was a kid. And so one flute will always be cutting while the other is not. if you're doing sharpening by hand the way we do. So that's the drawback by doing them by hand. The pros on doing them by hand is that you're not going to take off near as much as if you send it to a machine shop and have them do it on their machine, on their tool grinder. They're probably going to take off more material than we will by hand, because I just barely touch it just to bring back a new edge. So,
Okay, Michael Considine
Mike, Boston
wants
Mike.
to know, does sanding sealer really work and what does it do?
Sanding sealer does really work, and what it does, the way I use it anyway, I put it on pine, and it helps prevent bleeding when you're spraying your black, or colors for that matter.
How many coats do you put on it?
One, only one. Yeah, I was told years ago, and I might be wrong, but I was told years ago by a professional finisher that putting any more than one coat of sanding sealer is just a waste, because the second coat just dilutes the first.
Scott Shep says, I'm new to this, so I have a ton of questions. How can he ask you questions?
Well, you can ask some of them here, but you can email me, eric@makeawoodsign.com, and I spend 2 to 3 hours a day answering emails. So
You're going to be answering a few more because you're going to have a few about my camera.
about your camera, I'll just forward those over to you.
Yeah, okay. No, I had another one I wanted to ask you. Anybody else have a question?
The diamond wheel that you're talking about for sharpening those,
Mhm.
what size is that diamond wheel?
Well, our bench grinder is a 5-inch bench grinder, so it's 5-inch. But we've actually bought 2 diamond wheels, and this will tell you that if you're going to sharpen your own bits, this will tell you the original diamond wheel we bought, that Dad bought 35 years ago, we're still using. It's 1/2 inch wide. The one that I like better, I like the 1/4 inch wide one a little bit better. I just feel like I've got, I don't know, I can sharpen better with it. That's what I'm used to. But both of them are 25 years or older, and they still sharpen just as good. So they last forever. You're going to spend, I think today, back in those days when we bought those, they were $100, $150. Today you're probably going to spend 2.5, probably 200. You know, probably close to $200, $250 on a diamond wheel. And back then, they just had, we just bought the fine, the extra fine or extra fine, just enough to give us a nice smooth edge on there.
Are those diamond wheels any different than, like on the grinder over there, or back there now that's got 8-inch wheels? Is it the same material, just?
Oh, it's I'm sure it's different material. Because this is diamond impregnated on the actual wheel itself. So I don't know, what are your grinding wheel, what's the, I don't know, do you have a diamond wheel there? I don't know.
Is that CBN or
Carborundum?
No, the one on the left there, the Delta. No, on the Delta, right in front of you. Yes,
I don't know, is that diamond?
that's diamond.
Oh, well then, hey, then you've got it. If that's a diamond wheel, then it'll sharpen carbide. Yeah?
Can you do carbide on CBN?
I'm gonna refer that over to my dad, he's the machinist.
I've seen that.
Somebody call him.
I don't know.
Oh, he's asleep.
I've seen demonstrations on CBN,
No, it's
but
only
I
8.
haven't
Six
decided
hours.
whether.
Yeah, I don't know, you know, honestly, I'm not gonna try to answer a question that I don't know. That's more of a machinist question. My dad would definitely have an answer for you. But I'm only gonna talk about what I really know, and I couldn't tell you. I don't know. If it'll sharpen carbide, then it will, but we've always, again, like I say, we've got 2 diamond wheels we've had for 20, 30 years, and we've never needed to use anything else. So I really couldn't tell you. I don't know.
Natalie Watson says, how would you carve a heart, inset or outset?
It really depends how big it is. It depends on, my personal preference is carve it outset, so then I can color the heart red. and do it with either a paintbrush or the way I did it when I was carving on site. I was carving hearts all the time, you know, Rick and Patty with a heart in the middle, heart and an arrow, and I used a Sharpie to color the heart. So I like just going the line around the outside, leaving the inside just surface and coloring it with a Sharpie, and it looks great, especially when you put a finish on it.
Scott Shep says, how is carving on plywood with the bits? Does the glue in the plywood dull the bits faster?
I would say probably yes, although I haven't carved plywood in years. We used to carve plywood every once in a while, but the plywoods that they have these days are totally different than what we used back in the 70s and 80s. So, and the main reason we stopped carving plywood is because there were so many voids in it. So you'd be carving a letter and all of a sudden there'd be a missing piece in between the plies, and you'd be carving an outset letter and then it was gone. So that's the reason we stopped doing that. But as far as dulling the bits faster, my guess would be yes, it probably would dull the bits faster, but I can't tell you for sure because I don't carve plywood hardly ever.
Okay, so we have a question from Chris and Jake.
Okay.
They're, the Slime Factories, it says, apparently that's his kid's account. Ms. McGee, Chris and Jake from Pennsylvania said, is that a dog in the background?
No,
And the
that's
kids
right.
wanted to know. It is a dog, but there's two very large shepherds
Yeah. Where's
that
the-
would like
where's
to
the big
play.
boys?
I
And,
put them in the house so they can park.
oh,
Dad,
they
you
didn't
know?
have to be in the house.
Hey, Eric.
They didn't-
Corduroy's watching.
Dan,
Is Corduroy watching?
Corduroy, wait,
Corduroy.
yes, wait, Mama, Daddy?
Okay.
All right, so Corduroy's watching. He's our little
This is
two-year-old
their
fan.
son.
So he's watching. So
Hey,
Corduroy, say hi
Corduroy.
to Mom and Daddy.
We love you, buddy.
We'll see you on Sunday.
Hey.
So,
I'm good.
any more questions?
All right, hold on. I'm sorry.
I can spray these and sand them off and just
Eric,
kinda
have you ever
finish them up.
hand carved HDU?
HDU? Yes, I have, actually.
What is that?
That's a high density urethane. They make it in lots of different densities. In fact, I have a video on that. I did probably, gosh, 5 years ago. But yeah, if you go to the channel search, if you go to the channel search and type in HDU, you'll probably see the video that I did on it. But yeah, I absolutely did. It carves great. It carves like it's not even there.
Anybody else have any other questions?
Yeah, there's HDU right there. And they have all kinds of different densities of it. Yeah.
He's so.
Ooh, that's pretty,
What is that?
Pretty
I've never
dense.
seen anything like that.
18 pound? That's foam. A lot of exterior signs and signage are done out of these because you can paint it and it looks like wood and sandblasted and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, you can absolutely route this stuff.
When you know ahead of time that you're gonna be painting certain areas before you, after you route kind of thing, do you ever use aura mask?
You know, I don't, just simply because, and if it works, that's great. I just never have really found it necessary because, I sand everything off. So I'm fairly good with a spray can to the point where, and this stuff, again, I'm generally using a soft wood, so it sands off. The sanders that I use work so well that sometimes that would be an extra step that's not necessary, that just would take extra time rather than taking an extra few seconds sanding.
Well, like when I'm doing multicolors,
Yeah,
several different colors on different areas,
Yep.
I'll use aura, paint it, use aura mask, then
Yep.
cut it, then go back and, or take the aura mask off, paint around it.
and it's absolutely, and I've done, rather than doing that, for me, of course, because I'm doing it freehand, I will, if I'm doing something multicolored, like a flag, red, white, and blue, I'll mask things off, spray it, and then mask, let that dry, so I've done that, but not the aura mask. I've never used that, honestly, never have.
Shelf paper works just as well,
Does it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
What is oil mask?
shelf paper.
Oh,
yeah, it's basically a
like a
big
vinyl.
piece of sticky paper.
Okay, we
Yep.
get a lot of
Yep.
that, yeah. All right, are you gonna,
Yeah, I can spray this and sand it off. What are we doing on time?
Bull is here and he's full of you know what. And so he asked, have you ever carved a paddle?
I have carved the paddle. Several
And he
times.
said, did you, no,
There
we're not
he is.
going in. Hey, there's the babies. All right, wait, so here's the reason the little puppy,
This is.
this is
Rex.
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 There's one of them.
He's the little one.
Where's the other one? Oh, the other one likes to
Reason
stay
that puppy's so
outside.
high off the ground.
Yeah.
So the one thing that you want to remember, guys, when you're spraying, I'm probably, I don't know if I'm on camera or not, is nice short spurts, and don't overspray. Rex don't like the smell of that stuff. And don't overspray. So if you look real close in there, you can probably see some areas that look lighter than other areas, but it really will make no difference once it's sanded off. One of the reasons that I like the ink, and one of the downsides of the matte finish paint is that takes a long time to dry. This stuff dries very fast. That'll be dry in a few minutes, and then we'll sand it off. But my point was that if you overspray, what's going to happen is that gives you more chance of bleeding. With cedar, I don't really have that issue. But if you really pour that stuff in, you'll get bleeding no matter what you use, what kind of wood you use. And it's a very, very common mistake that everybody will just get that and just spray it almost like they rip the top off and pour it on, and that will lead to bleeding like every time. So you've got to have a light touch with that spray can. That took me a while to get. Sorry about the fumes, guys. It just never has bothered me. I know, it bothers her.
He says it doesn't bother him, but when the camera goes off, he passes out, so.
I pass out. Oh, right. Yeah, no, I grew up smelling that stuff, so it's probably not good for me.
That explains a lot.
Yes, this is spray stencil ink. This is Marsh spray stencil ink, so this isn't paint. This is a spray ink. It comes in colors. Again, it can be kind of tricky to find and kind of expensive. So there's another product is if for black, you can use black primer. I use a Rust-Oleum black primer, and it works just as well as this stuff, and it's a lot less expensive, a lot easier to find. I get that normally at Walmart. But there's another product now that I've just discovered kind of over the last few months that is a spray paint, but it's a matte finish. So, and I did several videos on this. What I found is that the characteristics that this and the primer had, and then you can also use a chalk paint. And I was trying to determine the similarities to those three products, and then I realized that they had a matte finish, really flat matte finish. And so then I tried a paint that had a matte finish, and it worked like a charm. The only problem with that is it takes about 20 to 30 minutes to dry, whereas this stuff dries really fast.
Chalk paint you spray?
Chalk paint you can spray. Yeah, they make a chalk paint in a spray can. Yep.
Okay, we need to.
Yep. All right, that's pretty much ready to go. Let's sand it off. Probably gonna want to move on me here. We'll see. Maybe not.
There's a mat done in one of those doors that keep it moving.
A what?
A mat, a rubber mat.
Oh, that's what this is.
He brought
Oh,
one.
okay.
We'll see. We'll see. Once the sawdust gets on it, sometimes it's kind of tricky. Thank you, Linda. So, I don't have a compressor, but
There's air hose on the end of the table there.
is there? Like a blower?
Oh, yeah.
Well, the compressor's in another room, but there's not one on that?
Ah, that's all right. It looks fine. It's
You got a
wing
word.
it. Yeah, wing it. So there it is. That just kind of gives you an idea of the inset letters, outset letters. Some of the detail I didn't spray that, but I wanted to really kind of show you guys what that carving liner was, how that cut as compared to the profile bit. So
would you go back over that one clear? If you were
yeah,
finishing that one?
normally I'd throw a clear on it. If it was going outside, I like ZAR, water-based polyurethane. If it's going inside, oh, there we go. Thank you, sir. If it's going inside, I generally use a Krylon clear, crystal clear in the spray can. That's what I used when I was carving on site all the time, and I'm making 20, 30, 40 signs a day. You know, I just throw a quick coat of clear on it, then I'd show the customer the can, and they could go down and buy it to Walmart and buy another can. So, yeah. Yes?
So now you can color that with a Sharpie without it bleeding into.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, you know, again, if you wanted to paint these letters, what I normally do on stuff like this, I wouldn't normally do that with a Sharpie. But if I was out on site, carving on site, then I need something really fast, then I would do it with a Sharpie. If I'm not on site carving, waiting as customers are ordering and then they're going out the door, then I would put a complete finish on this and then probably take in, I use a one-shot automotive paint that's made for pinstriping that's exterior. I love that stuff.
One shot's great stuff.
Oh, man, I dig that stuff. It's the best. I really, really do like that. So that's how I would probably color those. All right. Vicky's giving me
The
the
detail on the end, it looks, yeah.
yeah.
And you went further
Oh,
in
the
on that
end.
one. on
Oh,
your-
in the end.
see,
Yeah, you can
it
see.
looks good.
Yeah, you can
Either
see
way.
how. Because somebody was asking me about that. Yeah, you can see the difference in the two. It takes a little bit longer, so yeah. But it's a little tricky when you're lifting that router base, trying to get that to a perfect point. It can be a little bit tricky. So that's kind of an advanced move. But it does add a little bit to it. Okay. Are we anything
we're
on there
good.
we need to answer?
No,
Okay.
you pretty much did.
All right, boys and girls, any last questions? Or even after we get done here, we're gonna hang around and
Say goodnight,
some
Gracie.
chicken left over there? Is it all done?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're asking about the dog you did.
Oh, they, yeah.
Yeah.
Dog.
You can see, wait, no, wait, let's see.
What's that dog's name? I didn't get his name.
Braxton?
Braxton.
Braxton's getting,
Yeah,
yeah.
let him out. Give him over by Rex.
Oh,
Yeah, right.
oh, look, there's Braxton.
Braxton.
dogs.
Oh,
There you
good. Oh, yes. I'm a dog person, obviously. What a cutie. All right, boys and girls, I think we are done. So, thanks so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. I hope our sound and video held out because we were kind of winging it, but over to see Vic. So thanks so much. If you guys have any questions, again, eric@makeawoodsign.com. And don't forget, we're on Instagram every day, Make a Wood Sign. And if you haven't subscribed yet, we'd love for you to subscribe and click that little bell icon so you get notified, because we do 4 videos new every week. We got over 1,000 videos now, so we're still cranking out the videos. So if you have any questions, email me. Oh, Vic says give us a thumbs up. And we'll see you on Friday. We'll do another live on Friday night, just like normal. So thanks for watching, guys. We love you. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.